Ladies and gentlemen, hold on to your hats and strap yourselves in because Super Potato is now selling video games on eBay. This news was so momentous that it even made its way into the headlines of a couple of different online news sites. I'm going to talk about what Super Potato is, what this means in terms of Japanese video game collecting, and whether or not you should actually buy from Super Potato. Of course, being an eBay seller myself, the answer will be no, but I'm going to go into reasons why later on in the video. First, I want to start off with what is Super Potato. You've probably heard of this retro video game retailer. It's probably the most famous both in and outside of Japan. It's really become a rite of passage for retro video game collectors to visit Japan and walk the very narrow aisles of the Super Potato that's located in Akihabara. That is its most famous location. It's actually a chain of stores across. There's like 2 in Tokyo, there's a couple in Osaka, there might be one in Nagoya. But it is the most famous seller of Japanese retro video games, I would say, by far. It's also known for having very high prices. This is because it has built up a reputation over the last 20 or 30 years as the place to buy Japanese retro video games. This started off in the late 90s and the early 2000s, where you'd have foreign video game journalists going to events in Japan like the Nintendo Space World or Tokyo Game Show. And they would be in Tokyo, they would go to Akihabara, they'd see all of these, what were at the time extremely cheap retro games, and then they'd come back and they'd write these news articles, and so it would show up online, in print. I remember reading about it in Electronic Gaming Monthly like 20 years ago. So it's built up this reputation as a place to buy retro games. And then it also became sort of infamous a few years ago, back in like 2015, 2016, for not really having that many video games because all of these foreigners would come in and they would just vacuum up all of the games that they would have on their shelves, sort of regardless of price, because people would go in and it was very much the feel of being in a Japanese video game shop 20 years ago. No matter what year you visited Super Potato, it felt like you were going 20 years in the past and looking at all of this cool, not only ephemera, but things that you would just never see. We're talking one-of-a-kind objects that they would have in their showcases. But recently, you go up to the Super Potato showcases and you see games that you're like, hey, wasn't that like $10 a couple years ago, only they're selling it for $100 now? Well, Super Potato tends to jack up the price on its games. It probably, in the Akihabara area, had the most expensive prices on video games, bar none. You could maybe compare it to Mandarake, but Mandarake games would be expensive, but they would also be in flawless condition. And that wouldn't necessarily be the case at Super Potato. What is the significance of Super Potato being on eBay? Well, this is, I think, very much a reaction to the uncertain times of the last year and a half. Because if you weren't aware, in Japan, back in like April or March of 2020, the country actually shut its borders down and did not let in foreign tourists. And this, of course, is 99% of Super Potato's business. So this is their reaction to the Corona times of we are now living in a post-Corona world, and places like Super Potato have to figure out how they're actually going to be selling all of these games to foreigners who are really the only people who are going to be buying them. And that brings us to the next subject of, are these games actually worth buying? I would say, just start off by saying in general, no, but sometimes yes, and I have notes. So we're going to be talking about 3 different levels of games here, just to kind of, give a variety of different examples of what you will find on the Super Potato page and where you might be able to find these games for cheaper elsewhere. Starting off with Super Mario Kart. Super Potato is selling it for $21 just for the cartridge and then $20 shipping. Now that $20 can be combined with other items, but if the only thing you want from Super Potato is Super Mario Kart, that's going to cost you a total of $41 when you include shipping. People bought games at Super Potato for the atmosphere. But on eBay, the atmosphere is really the same no matter what seller you're looking at. And so you can literally just type in Super Mario Kart Japanese and you'll find it for $16, and that's including shipping from other sellers, anywhere from $16 to maybe like $18. If you look at something like Contra 3, when you're comparing it to other eBay sellers, complete in box, Super Potato wants $131 for the game. You can easily find it for $80 from other sellers in the same condition, complete in box, with, slightly roughed edges. And then you look at Dodonpachi. Now this is interesting. This is where things get a little bit complicated, because Dodonpachi for the PlayStation 1, Super Potato is selling it for $100. And the best price I could find for it on eBay was $128 from other sellers. Interesting. Maybe I put in the search terms wrong. Maybe it's possible to find it elsewhere for slightly cheaper than Super Potato, but I gotta give it to them. They've got at least one game out of the 250 that they're selling that actually might be cheaper than elsewhere. And that's, I think, gonna be something that I'm going to reiterate in virtually every video that I make about Japanese retro game hunting. And in this video too, I'll probably say it multiple times. What you're looking for is going to be cheaper somewhere else. So you always have to shop around. And Super Potato, despite its reputation for high prices, actually did at one point have some of the best Sega Saturn prices that I had ever seen in Japan. But let's compare the Super Potato eBay experience with other Japanese retailers and their online stores. Now, these aren't eBay stores. These are actually the storefront, the online storefront for Japanese retro game sellers in Japan. And I want to start off with going back to Super Mario Kart. Let's compare the $21 for Super Potato's copy with the $2 copy that you can get on Surugaya online. Now, I don't know what their shipping rates are going to be, but I'm pretty sure it's going to be competitive with Super Potato's $20 shipping. We then go to Contra 3 complete in box. Remember, the Super Potato price was $131. That's versus $140 at Mandarake, which is one of the premier sellers of sort of very high level Japanese retro games. However, I will say that the Mandarake copy looked like it was in way better shape than the Super Potato copy. Or if you want something comparable with the Super Potato copy, you can spend almost half of the price and get Contra 3 for $70 from Surugaya online. Then looking at Dodonpachi, it's $100 at Super Potato on eBay, it's $100 on Mandarake, and it's $70 at Surugaya. Now, the thing, of course, about Surugaya is that you really don't know what condition you're going to be getting, because all of their listings only use what is essentially stock footage for the game. Whereas with these Super Potato listings, it looks like the game that you're buying is the game that they have in the pictures. So that is a slight advantage I will give to Super Potato's eBay store over a place like Surugaya. Mandarake is also very good at photographing every inch of the game that they're going to sell you. So I would say actually that is where Mandarake really shines in terms of the service that it's giving you. The wrinkle I want to add to this is the fact that Super Potato has an online store, only it's available to only people that live in Japan. And so I want to maybe give some perspective on the price that Super Potato thinks it can charge in Japan versus the price that it thinks it can charge to foreigners that may not, know what they're buying or may not know the prices very well. So let's look at Super Mario Kart. Online, $21 if you're a foreigner wanting to buy it outside of Japan, or if you're inside of Japan, $8. If you were somehow able to go to the Super Potato that's in Akihabara, you could pick it up for just $8, half the price of what they're selling it for online. And then to Contra 3 complete in box, they're selling it on eBay for $131 versus $110 in their store or their online storefront. And they didn't have Dodonpachi on their website for some reason. I don't know why. Now this is very curious to me, because if you can figure out how to purchase the games on Super Potato's website and have them shipped to a freight forwarder who will then, you ship it domestically from Super Potato and then you have the freight forwarder ship it to you outside of Japan, you can actually save money that way versus buying these games from Super Potato's eBay store. Just with these games alone, you're going to be saving $30 if you're buying Super Mario Kart and Contra 3. So what are the advantages of buying games from Super Potato through their eBay store? As far as I can tell, really all it is the eBay buyer protection versus, say, buying through Sudogaya, where the international returns is going to be a very laborious process for you as the buyer. For Mandarake, probably the same thing as well. And as well as through the freight forwarder, if you're doing the third party shipping, that could also be very difficult if you run into any problems with your items. But look, it's Super Potato. They know what they're doing. You're probably not going to be having any problems with the things that you're buying. But it's just in that rare case that you do, at least through eBay, you have the buyer protection. But then that means that Super Potato has to compete with other eBay shops. And honestly, the only advantage that Super Potato had in its retail locations was the experience of being there, of seeing all of the CRTs turned on with all the game footage that they're playing, and seeing the really cool, like the golden Famicom disc cart that they had in there. You just don't get that on eBay. Instead, it's just one storefront versus another, and it's all the same plain white background of the eBay. I honestly don't really see that big of a reason to buy from Super Potato's eBay store unless they have something that's rare and difficult to find, which is very possible, or they actually sometimes do have a deal, as in case of Doronpachi for the PS1. It happens. I honestly don't think it's going to be that frequent, and I think that if you're looking for the best price on retro games, you're probably going to be better served looking at other stores or on eBay or through other online storefronts like perhaps Mandarake or Sudogaya. I've been your man out of Japan, Jay Contra. Thanks for watching, and mahalo.